fastest wrestling on the edge of the world!
Dead Agents playing us in, as always, with their track Hard to Burn. We should remember to shout out Dead Agents, always giving us and SPW their awesome music to use. Check them out on Spotify. But welcome to the Bleeding Edge. I am Tyler King, joined by David Dunn. David, how are you this weekend?
I am doing well, Tyler. I'm feeling a little bit old this weekend, though, because I can remember when Dead Agents were known as Quantum Hill. So that ages me quite a bit. And you might be feeling the same way, my friend, because I believe you've had a birthday this week.
Yes, I have. And I remember when they were known as No Americana, so making me even older. But nonetheless, yes, I did have a birthday this week. Thank you. It's been great. Not only did I have a birthday, I had two incredible back-to-back wrestling events, Fight for Gold Night 1 and 2. Shall we talk about it?
Absolutely. It was great to get down there to Invercargill again, to get back into the swing of things for SPW in 2021. And these were some phenomenal events, weren't they, Tyler? We're going to break down the card, of course, for both nights of SPW Fight for Gold. So Night 1, we should point out, available right now on SPW On Demand. Night 2 coming very soon. But if you are concerned about spoilers, maybe skip ahead a couple of minutes and check out our feature interview with Cool Guy Sky. Actually, on second thoughts, don't skip ahead because he's going to be talking about the results of Night 2, isn't he? So that's a bad piece of advice.
I was going to say, if you're concerned about spoilers, I hope you didn't look at the graphic for this episode of the Cool Guy Sky holding the Fight for Gold briefcase and the SPW Tag Team Championship. Bit of a giveaway of what happened across Fight for Gold weekend. But yes, check it out on SPW On Demand and let's talk about it. So, Night 1, we had the Fight for Gold qualifying matches.
We did 4 men advancing to the main event of Night 2's ladder match, and that means on Night 1, double duty for our brand new SPW Tag Team Champions. Huge night for Will Power and Cool Guy Sky, qualifying for that Fight for Gold ladder match and answering the open challenge of Control, going on to become new SPW Tag Team Champions.
Huge night for Will Power and Cool Guy Sky. Terrible night for Control. They lose the SPW New Zealand Tag Team titles, and Jake Sheehan is then first eliminated in that 4-way main event for the SPW New Zealand Championship. Just the Control had the opportunity to take over, and somewhere along the way, it all fell apart.
Really slipped through their fingers on Night 1. But boy, oh boy, that was a big main event. 4-way elimination match for the SPW New Zealand Championship. Of course, we mentioned Jake Sheehan, the first man eliminated. But there was quite a fight put up by Marcus Cool and Rangi in pursuit of Jamie Tangatese's SPW New Zealand Championship.
Yeah, but in the end, it was the big man shutting down the competition, and he had some words to say after that match. Let's have a quick listen now.
Nobody is going to take this away from me. Not Rangi, not Marcus Cool, not Jake, not Will Power, Cool Guy Sky, nobody! Because I am your undisputed big champ of New Zealand. Recognize the name, Jamie Tangatese.
Not quite the same humble Jamie Tangatese that we spoke to a couple of weeks ago on the Bleeding Edge, but it's hard to disagree with anything he's saying.
I certainly wouldn't want to stand in that ring and disagree with him, and it's going to take a tough challenger to be able to dispute what he said there. Jamie Tangatese delivering in a big way, retaining his championship, and then the following night in Auckland doing the same, retaining the IPW New Zealand Championship as well. Still 2 titles, Tangatese coming out of Waitangi weekend.
And in addition to all that, we did see a heated exchange between the hooligan Marcus Cool and Niwa. Hooligan laying down the challenge to Niwa. Let's have a quick listen to some of that.
Because if it weren't for those 3, and if it wasn't for these people here, you wouldn't even have a New Zealand scene to come back to. And the truth is, the only reason you're here right now is because of COVID-19. So you want to walk back in here? You want to walk back to a scene that we built while you were gone, and you want to act like a little Yeah, that's what I want, because ever since you've been back, you've been phoning it in, mate. So who am I getting tomorrow night? Am I getting little kid Johnny Idol, or am I getting Niwa?
So who would show up on night 2? Would it be the kid Johnny Idol or the man Niwa? Well, the hooligan definitely got the man Niwa on night 2. Far out, David. This match, it was pretty awesome to call. And both guys are definitely going to be feeling it for a while.
I've been thinking about this one all week, Tyler. I can't get it out of my mind, and I can't believe that we are going to see round 2 coming our way in Queenstown. These two went to war, and I will be there every single time they step in a ring.
Yeah, April 3rd in Queenstown is going to be amazing if that Fight for Gold match was anything to go by. But let's get back to Fight for Gold. So we also saw a brand new Corey Cutter. There's a bit of a grudge match. Corey Cutter taking on former tag team partner Ryder. But what did you make of the pride of the South, Corey Cutter?
A real 180-degree transformation over the course of those 24 hours. The Corey Cutter we saw on night 1, drastically different to the Corey Cutter we saw on night 2. But, I like it. I like this new Corey Cutter. I'm certainly interested to see how things pan out for him. And, hopefully people can get on board with the pride of the South.
Well, so far not so good, though. It was Ryder who got the pin, managing to surprise Cutter in the end. So great news for the Golden Boy, not so great news for the Pride of the South, but we'll see where those two go from here. We also saw New Japan Pro Wrestling's Toa Henare return to SPW after several years away in a very, very hard-hitting match with Slade Mercer. Another one that if you were not there, man, you've got to check it out because it's another match unlike anything else that we had seen in SPW.
We were stationed at the very back of the building for our commentary position, arguably the worst seats in the house.
Yeah, what is up with that? Why we do have the worst seats in the house.
As far away from the ring as you can get, and it felt like we were right in there. The way that these shots that Henare and Slade Mercer were trading were echoing throughout the building. You could feel the impact all the way from our seat to the back. A very physical confrontation.
Yeah, and hopefully it won't be the last time we see Toa Henare in an SPW ring. But we did see the flagship show debut of the Underground, who we had previously seen at Kiwi Fight Nights. So they made a lasting impression on the SPW audience as they took on our broadcast partner, Amos Valentine. And he had a surprise partner for the Underground in the form of Carnage.
Yes, that's right. Big developments there. Carnage, no longer the SPW New Zealand Tag Team Champion after the events of Night 1, found himself with a new partner and our broadcast colleague on Night 2. And Tyler, I joked about this on the night, but we may have to come up with a new name for the Underground because these boys are Underground no more, stepping out into the spotlight at Fight for Gold, picking up a big win in front of a big crowd.
So we've got a bit of a new look to the tag team division now. It's Will Power and Sky, the Mega Powers, as the tag team champions. You've got the Underground coming up. Amos Valentine and Carnage there in the mix as well. So some very interesting developments happening over the course of that one weekend.
And we can't talk about this one weekend without talking about the one match it was all building to. 4-way ladder match. Fight for Gold briefcase hanging high above the ring. Shane Sinclair, Jackson Cross, Will Power, and Cool Guy Sky went to battle over that briefcase. And in the end, as everyone listening already knows, because they've seen the graphic for this episode, Cool Guy Sky was the man to reach up high, take down that briefcase, and now he has a guaranteed shot at the SPW New Zealand Championship whenever and wherever he wants.
Yeah, and he won't be using it to go after the SPW Tag Team titles because as of Night 1, he is now an SPW Tag Team Champion. So he made it very clear that he is targeting Jamie Takanese in that SPW New Zealand Championship, and Jamie is going to have to look over his shoulder. But let's hear about that from Sky himself, shall we, David?
Yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to our interview right now with the man himself, Mr. Fight for Gold, Cool Guy Sky.
Cool Guy Sky joins us on the Bleeding Edge. How are you doing, man?
Oh, Mr. Tyler King, I am doing amazing. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's very hot. It's a hot day, which is nice. But yeah, it's great to talk to you, dude.
What a pleasure. And Double D, how are we today?
Mate, we are swell. It is very hot, and we've got the hottest guest in all of SPW on the podcast because this episode, we're talking all about Fight for Gold, and there was really no one else we could think of to have come on. What a name who encapsulated everything that happened over the weekend. Cool Guy Sky. Let's get down to it. Let's talk about it. How are you feeling? Couple of days removed from that massive ladder match at Fight for Gold.
Oh, I'm sore, I'm tender, but I am ecstatic. I'm speechless, to be honest. I mean, I was confident going in, but to actually pull the result, as you know, last year, a lot of the times I was confident going in, thinking I'd pull the result. Other people had other ideas, but for the first time, I think, ever in my wrestling career, everything just went as planned and I got the results.
Congratulations. And of course, we're talking about night 2, that ladder match, but night 1, a massive result for you again as well. New SPW Tag Team Champions, the Mega Powers. Mate, I mean, what a weekend for you. If you can sum it up in a few words, how did that feel? Back to back, amazing results.
Well, look, there's one word that comes to mind for me, and it's mega. It was a mega weekend. It doesn't get much better than that. A title win, and with my best mate, and of course in the briefcase. I just ecstatic.
It's great to finally have you on the podcast, man. A couple of people have called you out already a couple of times. Jamie Tung at SA said he'd love to face you. JK Moody said you're one of his favourites. And of course, we talked all about you when you were voted as the 2020 Breakout Star of the Year, as well as winning Match of the Year and Moment of the Year as well. So, yeah, things are going pretty well for Cool Guy Sky at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, they sure are. And I was an avid listener of the opposition, Bleeding Edge. But listening to JK Moody and Jamie talk quite highly of me was pretty awesome, because they're definitely two guys I look up to, especially JK. You know, he played a big part in my wrestling. I'd probably credit him the most with training me, that sort of thing. So it was pretty awesome to hear that, and that's definitely a dream match for me. And then the Slammies, I couldn't believe it. The Cool Guy Sky universe, they've obviously got access to the internet, because what a moment that moment of the year was, farewelling the barracks.
Well, you speak about training, so let's backtrack a little bit. Let's go back to the beginnings of Cool Guy Sky coming to SPW. How did you initially find out about SPW and find your way to SPW?
So I was in high school. I think I was like year 11 or 12, whatever year I was. Doesn't really matter. Anyone else does it. And Ryder, from my tag partner in detention, we went to school together. We've been best mates our whole lives. And he showed me this SPW documentary, because it must have been free online for like a month or something, I remember. And so he showed me that, and it was like, oh, this is cool. There's actually wrestling in New Zealand. Who would have thought? And we went along to an Armageddon or something, and I was like, oh, is this? Is this wrestling in New Zealand? Because I was like a big indie fan. But Matt was like, Ryder was, he absolutely loved SPW. And so they put up a thing about a tryout day, and Matt went along. Drove from, because we're from Dunedin, drove down from Dunedin to Invercargill. I was too scared to ask my mum if I could go to Invercargill with Matt, so I didn't go. And then Matt came back, and at school he was absolutely raving about it, saying it was the greatest thing ever, and this and that, and he was like bragging pretty much. I was like, well, screw you, I'm going to come this week. And I messaged SPW. He was like, can I please? I know I missed a tryout. I'm so sorry. And I came up with some lame excuse. And I made the trip down with Matt. We came down, and yeah, it was all go from there. As soon as I walked into the barracks, I just fell in love with the place. I was like, this is literally like a second home straight away. Because I was like, oh, I'm only going to come down once a month, whatever. But every weekend for 2 years, me, Ryder, and Carnage, actually, we'd all drive down together. We'd carpool. We'd get up at like 6 a.m. and drive down to Invercargill from Dunedin. And, it was crazy. And then I've ended up moving down here. Now I'm in Invercargill. So, yeah, it's been a journey.
A life-changing experience for you, that first tryout. Do you remember some of the stuff that you had to do when you first came to your first training, and how that felt? Was it sort of what you had in your mind pro wrestling would be, or was this a real eye-opener for you?
It was definitely an eye-opener. I remember the bumps and all that. I mean, it came a little bit like, it came quicker-ish, but I remember the bumps in there. It was like, oh, this actually like really sucks, really hurts. And Matt, being the Muppet that he is, he was like, yeah, we should take super kicks, we should take choke slams, all this. And on my first training, I had to take a bloody choke slam from T-Rex, which was interesting nonetheless. And even the following weeks, I remember, because I was like a 70-kilo boy, T-Rex would just like throw me around and like just like beat me with like the randomest stuff. Like we'd just be like training, whatever, and he'd just be like, "Yeah, bro, I'm just gonna give you an Olympic slam," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, whatever. What's an Olympic slam again?" And then he'd just like throw me, and that was like the first like six. To be honest, I was the rag doll for like a year, 2 years.
What was your first actual SPW event? Did you join the training school before you had attended an event?
Yeah, I did. My first event, I think, was it was when they used to do the fight nights, and it was just like the families would sort of come, and like you'd bring your own couch, and it was called, what was it called? I think it was like Battle of the Bastards or something, because Progress had done some bastard tournament thing. So that was my first one. I was the runner, and I just had jackets thrown at me and stuff. And then my first main show that I got to see, I was security at Halloween Haunting 2017, I think it was.
Yes, I recall that. J.K. Moody standing in the ring with the championship belt. You can see one Cool Guy Sky in the background in a SPW security top.
By the entranceway. That was my big breakout there, actually, in the security top. Me and Ryder, actually. Ryder was terrified on security. He was absolutely useless, but I was the big serious security guard that I was, and he came and he was like a shadow just following me around. So, what can I say? Made a good security guard.
So for how long were you training with SPW, working security, being the runner, these sorts of things, before the big moment came for you to finally step in the ring for your first match?
I think it was only about 4 months or so, and we had a wee roll. We did a little spot thing with Hammer and Professor Palmer, because Professor Palmer couldn't take a choke bomb or something, so the two trainees came in and did that, and then it was just like funny as, and then detention sort of formed and became a thing, and then we debuted at the Will Ospreay Fight Nights. So I'd say it was about 4 or 5 months, and Will Ospreay Fight Nights was probably like the first sort of thing, the infamous Barracks Brawl, which you can't find anywhere, but it exists. I tell you, it exists.
I don't know. It's an interesting rumor, that one.
Does
it exist?
Does
is it
exist?
on my hard drive?
Yes, it is.
I do remember that one where you came out in your SPW crew shirts to like back up Palmer, and I think you both took spears from Hammer, and that was just like an on the day, like oh you guys can jump in and take a spear. It wasn't like a big planned debut, which obviously is why you didn't have the school uniforms and that sort of thing. But I guess, was there any inkling at that time that's kind of the role that you would end up filling anyway?
Nah, so me and Ryder, we had these big singles characters planned out. So we were like, oh yeah, this is gonna be money. His was actually always the Golden Boy. He's stuck from the Golden Boy since day one. Mine was sort of called. It was originally called it was something Jackson Sky, and it was like it's kind of similar. Well, it wasn't similar at all, really. I just wanted to wear tassels. That was about the only thing that was similar to Cool Guy Sky. So we had these massive things planned. We bought all this like rubbish wrestling gear and like thought we were awesome, but like realistically, I'm really glad that didn't happen. So we ended up we were like so excited to be these characters, and then we were like got told we were going to be with Professor Palmer dressed as school kids, and we were like, no, what? That's weird. And then we did it, and I was like, oh, this is actually really fun. And like Matt was obsessed with the Golden Boy. Like Matt's been obsessed with the Golden Boy since day one, man. He loved that character, and like it's obviously all come together. But it was quite funny, like because we were still in school, so we're like, oh yeah, this is quite funny. We're like school kids that are school kids, and it just kept like evolving, and then it was like, wow, we're detention now. This is sick, and it was like pretty sweet getting a team with my best mate for so long too, which was pretty cool.
So we've talked about your Fight Nights debut. I want to talk a bit about your flagship event debut, because I think this is a story that hasn't been told yet. Tell us about how that all came about, because you didn't have a lot of notice that you were going to be performing on that card.
No, so we're Fight for Gold 2018. Big day came around. We're ready to do our big security roles. And a certain JXT from Australia was meant to be wrestling T-Rex. But it was a bit lucky for us, not lucky for JXT, but it was really windy. So JXT's flight actually got cancelled. So they were sort of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Who are we going to do? Blah, 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 blah. And I don't know who pitched the idea, like how it came about, but it ended up. Why don't we just? Have you guys got gear? Oh yeah, we brought our knee pads, and we can go get school shirts from the warehouse. Yeah, you guys going to be wrestling T-Rex tonight? What? We were like, no way. They're like, yeah. So ring your mum. So we rang our parents, like, yeah. Oh my god, we're wrestling tonight at Fight for Gold, and like obviously they couldn't make it, but yeah, it was like a couple hours before the show, sort of thing. We found out. And we were nervous, man. I remember, like backstage, we were packing it. It was, but I've watched it back recently, and I was like, it was pretty funny to watch back. It's yeah, it was just crazy. That I remember, like that was one of the coolest moments of my life. Just I think because it wasn't planned as well, didn't really have the week up to sort of like process. It was just like, right, you guys are wrestling tonight. Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember being quite nervous around that matchup as well, because as the ring announcer, I was the one who was going to have to go out there and potentially open the show with this bad news that this international star we're bringing across from Australia isn't here anymore. And I was concerned that, how's the crowd going to take that? Are they going to want to see this replacement match? And I don't think they cared in the slightest. I think they loved that little match, and they were very happy to see T-Rex get his hands on Professor Palmer and you guys. So, yeah, it worked out for the best for everyone, I think.
Yeah, it definitely did. Yeah, because that was definitely the way. It was like, I mean, they've never like we've been on one fight nights, and we're in like a brawl that didn't happen. So it was sort of a question of like, are they actually going to care? But man, they love seeing T-Rex just whip out our asses, And it was like that, Like I remember Ryder got a bleeding nose, and there was so many like funny stuff that happened in that, and then we just all got power bombed and piled up at the end, and like it was just so funny. And the crowd, you're right, the crowd did definitely get their money's worth of entertainment in that one.
And from there, detention was established and was off to the races. And it wasn't long after that you guys actually got to wrestle in Dunedin. What was that like, wrestling in your hometown?
That was another one, like one of the coolest things ever. Because we were still at school at the time, so obviously we sold tickets to our schoolmates and our families and all that, and like this is only our second match, so it was we were like really nervous, but we had so many people in the crowd, and like detention with these like we were like we were naughty little school kids. We were meant to get booed out the building, but because we had so many people there, we ended up getting cheered really loudly, and I think we just started calling people. I started calling someone like a loser just to just because I was like, oh, we need to get booed somehow. I'll call them losers, and then I don't know, it turned into a whole thing. The loser thing, that was like pretty much the catchphrase for the whole duration of detention. It was a T-shirt and everything. So that show had some gems as well. I remember that was one of the first times I hit the 450. I think must have been your first or second time, and like, oh man, the crowd went crazy. All my mates were like, holy heck, and like they were sending me videos, and it was all over Snapchat. I was like, man, this is cool. This is sick.
And so you mentioned before about Ryder really having his sights set on that golden boy character. But what was it like working with him and working together and creating this detention along with Professor Palmer? Did you feel like you were onto something?
Oh, 100%. It was pretty awesome because like I say, we're best mates. We're both pretty much kids. So it was pretty cool getting to like, because all through when we grew up, we used to wrestle on the trampoline, wrestle teddy bears, wrestle each other. I remember one time we wrestled. We had a wee wrestling match on the trampoline, and I think we were like Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and we versed Alberto Del Rio, who was a teddy bear who got dragged out on a little go-kart thing. So like it was pretty crazy going from like that to actually like literally looking at each other like, oh my god, we're wrestling together. This is cool. And then also getting to wrestle because we started off with a feud against Down to Fight, which was Luke Grayson and Wana, who we trained with. So it was pretty cool. Like it was like four mates, and then but especially like I say, like with my best mate there, like it was pretty cool. And we had some I think we had some natural chemistry because of our friendship, and we sort of just pulled the piss out of Professor Palmer. So it was pretty cool. We got to kind of be ourselves. I think towards the end, sort of, because we started to sort of wrestle differently. Like we were two different wrestlers really, and so we'd one of us would have an idea, and then be like, oh, nah, that's not going to work, and the other would have an idea, and so we'd like find it hard to agree on things towards the end. but we'd always make it work, and that I think it was good as well being friends like that, because you could just be like, no, that's a dumb idea, and like you wouldn't really be afraid to say it. Because I think if you didn't really know the person, it probably would be a little bit like nervy to say stuff like that. So we kind of always came to a middle ground, which was sweet. And we'd do all sorts of comedy videos that we'd put online, and like I don't know, we got quite a lot of traction on that page, which was pretty cool as well. But we were just like out there having a laugh with our mates together, Like we did a Weet-Bix challenge video, and we're just eating Weet-Bix. We thought it was the funniest thing ever, and we put it online, and it got heaps of views. Like, wow, this is so cool! Like we're just having fun, but it's working,
Yeah, so you and Ryder, this detention really rose to prominence quite quickly. You've had your debut, then you've showed up in your hometown of Dunedin, and then a little bit later on that year, you two find yourselves inside ILT Stadium, SPW's biggest crowd to date, this massive audience. The eyes of the world, it felt like at the time, are on you, and you're only a couple of months into your wrestling careers. Did you feel an immense pressure walking into a venue like ILT Stadium? What was your experience like with that Southern Rumble?
Oh, that was terrifying. And honestly, I was so nervous and everything that especially that first one, I did not even take it in. Like it was like my brain couldn't even comprehend that. From only being wrestling for like 6 months to getting to be in front of this, like it felt like a WWE show. Like that, I don't know, it just felt like that. There was the big WrestleMania, the cube screen above the ring. Like, oh, I couldn't even process. But I think that was crazy though for just for SPW alone, getting to be in that stadium and having that amount of people, as well as having Tennille Dashwood and Ospreay. Like that was like, it felt like a global stage, really, didn't it? It was huge for SPW and for New Zealand wrestling, and for all the guys on that show. It was really special way.
There's a very cool shot of you doing the crossbody as you enter the Rumble match, and it is one of my favorite shots to use.
Yes,
from that
that's
show.
right.
Even though you're in your school uniform, it's
yes,
it's just looks like some
I know
kid jumping
exactly
into the
what
ring.
you mean. Yeah, with his bloody blue cornrows. What a clown, eh? I remember that moment, flying through the air, I was like, wow. And I did the rated R superstar entrance because Edge was my favorite when I was a kid. So I think I put 2 L's in the air or something instead. But I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, I'm doing the Edge entrance. And then I got out on the stage and didn't even like run to the sides or anything. I just packed it and was like, there's a lot of people here.
And what about wrestling outside of SPW? When did you start venturing outside and going to other places around the country? And do you have any stories you'd like to share?
I think my first one was when UCW in Christchurch reopened or whatever. I think I wrestled against Big Gun Jesse Harris. I think it was my first time out of town. I think that's what it was. Either that or that Mitchell Mania show that CPW put on. It was around that time though. It was just after we'd won the tag belts. I think it was when I started sort of venturing out a little bit. We went to CPW a couple times, UCW, Asylum. What else was there? We went to IPW. That was pretty cool, going to IPW. That was like a big goal for me for quite a while, to wrestle in IPW. So that was pretty awesome when that was achieved. I mean, there's a lot of stories. We had a lot of road stories, especially to Christchurch, because we all carpool and we all go in the town after the show, sort of thing. So there's been a lot of stories. I remember one time, it was after a Crate Day wrestling show in Christchurch, and we all must have gone to town or whatever. And Ryder was having a cry about something to Kane on, and Kane on was just like, yeah, man, like feeding him on. And me and I think it was Nico Dandy and Chanel Starr were like, I was like, we're sick of hearing him cry. So we went and swam in the fountain outside the Christchurch Cathedral, in our full town get up, dressed to the nines, swimming in the fountain in the middle of Christchurch. So that was an interesting one from the early road trip days. Or there was one time we were driving back from Christchurch and we were going through Balclutha, and the Balclutha pub, and there's like 100 people in Balclutha, but the pub was like raving, like next level raving. And so we're in the back of the car and we were like, we've got to go in. So it was like me, Moody, Will, Kane, I think. There's a few, Ryder, all that. And we went in, and none other than Richie, Professor Palmer, was DJing. He was DJing in the Balclutha pub, and the town was going off. So that was another funny one from the early days. There's been a few. There's lots of stories, but stories are stories. What goes on tour stays on tour.
So you mentioned you started hitting the road shortly after you won the SPW Tag Team Championship. So let's talk a little bit about that. When you first made your debut, you were on the undercard of these events that had these phenomenal tag team matches with the likes of the Cruisermates and NZXT going back and forth over the SPW New Zealand Tag Team Championships. And towards the end of that year, you become SPW New Zealand Tag Team Champions, and you do it in this phenomenal match against the Cruisermates. What was it like stepping in the ring with the Cruisermates and then, achieving what I assume was a goal for you guys as a tag team, becoming the tag team champions?
That still was one of my favourite nights ever. Getting to win the tag belts alongside Ryder was pretty special. And like you say, that was our big goal. That was the biggest goal, of course. As a young tag team, being the tag team champions is crazy. And like you say, the NZXT and Cruisermates were tearing it up, and we were sort of wrestling under them. So getting to wrestle the Cruisermates was special. We looked up to them, so it was pretty cool getting to wrestle them. And it was really one of my favorite matches. It was so much fun, hard hitting. It was just awesome. Even now, I think I'd watch that back and probably have a good time watching that. It was just so cool getting to wrestle those guys and getting that experience, especially Liam Fury, who's just been around wrestling for so long. So getting to wrestle someone with that sort of experience was pretty awesome. I remember when Professor Palmer handed us the tag titles, me and Ryder were crying. We both were couldn't believe it. We were crying, and we hugged backstage. I remember the whole crowd was booing. Right, the whole crowd hated seeing Detention as the tag champions beating their beloved Cruisermates, but all the boys had come out the entranceway and were doing a clap, like a guard of honor. So you had all the wrestlers in the entranceway clapping and doing this guard of honor, but then you had the whole crowd just booing and just hating it. So it was quite funny in that regard. It was this is such a special moment, but oh man, they really hate us, eh?
From there, you enjoyed a pretty successful reign as the SPW New Zealand Tag Team Champions. And it all culminated with a main event match on a flagship show against the Deadly Sins. How big was that for you?
That was the match, the two guys that had trained us. And it was sort of like K9 sort of took Ryder under his wing, the whole time we were training. And Moody sort of had always taken me under his wing. So it was sort of like literally students versus the teachers. And two of our best friends as well. So it was really special getting to wrestle those guys. And, a year prior, we'd luck of the draw, only just, we debuted Luck of the Hat because the guy's flight got cancelled. And a year later, we were main eventing a flagship show. So, and we were the tag champions as well. So to put it it was just, it was just crazy. We couldn't even comprehend. But the match itself was, once again, just a ton of fun. I think that's the one thing to Detention, just everything was just a ton of fun. So, but especially, that match was probably one of my favorite ones in Detention, I'd say. Either that or the Cruisermates one were the two favorites in Detention. Just because, I don't know, the Sins sort of brought it out of us. We got to go up another gear. We did all sorts of stuff that we'd never done before. And we'd wrestled we'd never wrestled that sort of lengthy match and a main event of the show, anything like that. So it was pretty crazy.
It was uncharted territory for SPW as well, having the tag team title be the main event of a flagship show.
Yes. And the reunion of the Deadly Sins after they just hated each other for a long time. They come together on the cause of beating the crap out of us. So, look, if anything, we can say that we're pretty much marriage counsellors in Detention.
You could say that.
They're kind of weird if you're coming to me and Ryder, though, for marriage advice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So on that fateful night versus the Deadly Sins, your tag team championship reign came to an end. And eventually, as all good things do come to an end, Detention went their separate ways. How did you know it was the right time to end this tag team, to end this unit, and to break out on your own?
So we'd pretty much done it all as a tag team. We'd won the tag team titles, and we'd been teaming for a couple of years now. And it was sort of getting to a point where I was like, right, I'm kind of starting to form my own identity. And it sort of felt like Professor Palmer and Ryder were starting to hold me back a wee bit. So I sort of I had to just take it upon myself, because I guess with the Deadly Sins leaving as well, it was sort of like there needs to be a new guy. There needs, J.K. Moody and K9, the faces of SPW are gone. Someone needs to step up. And if I'm in detention, like, that kind of rules me out. So I sort of just had to do it. And I'm glad I did, because it's paying off, which is awesome. It was kind of a hard decision, because obviously leaving my best mate behind, and that caused its conflict. But you have to look out for yourself at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm glad I did. No regrets at all.
And so I remember shortly after that was the fight nights, and I think it was at the beginning of 2020. And I came over to you with my camera. We went into that little playground area at the barracks, and we kind of I don't know how much of an idea you had of who Cool Guy Sky was, but I feel like we probably worked out a little bit as we were kind of shooting it, and put together that little piece where you claimed you would win the Southern Rumble, and you had claimed that 2020 would be the year of the Cool Guy. Turned out that 2020 wasn't really anyone's year. Was it difficult to stay motivated with everything going on in 2020, shows being cancelled, when this was supposed to be your breakout year as a single star?
I think, like you say, I was sort of still discovering myself, and that filming session was one of the funniest things ever. We were doing kissy faces and zooming in and zooming out, and everyone was being loud, and we were yelling. It was funny. But over lockdown, it wasn't a good time for me at all, to be fair. Just sitting at home doing nothing, had no motivation. I was just eating crap, doing nothing. So I came out of lockdown looking pretty rough. And then I think I actually saw that Skies Rumble promo, and I was like, right, like, like, you said this, you got to follow it up. You got to walk the walk. So that sort of motivated me to come out of lockdown, and I'd take a look at myself and go like, right, man, this isn't on. And I went hard. And that sort of, to be honest, I think that lockdown, though it was really, really bad and it wasn't a good time, it gave me the motivation and the drive, and it got me in the gym, and it got me working harder than I ever have. So though it was a crap 4 weeks, to be honest, it's paid off in the long run. And I think that sort of made me realize, like, right, this is your time now. Go and take it, eh? That Skies Rumble thing definitely gave me the motivation, because going into that Rumble, I was certain I was winning. And even when I was number one, I was like, I don't care. I'll go an hour and a half. I'll chuck out whoever I need to chuck out, because I'm winning this Rumble. And I knew it. I should have won that damn Rumble. But of course, other people had other plans, and that was would become the theme of the second half. But I think because of that lockdown, giving me the motivation and Skies Rumble and everything, and getting the drive, man, like through all those tough times with Palmer and Jackson Cross, which would later happen in the year, I've stayed motivated. I've stayed hustling, because, like, if I can get through a 4-week goddamn lockdown, I don't care what Professor Palmer and all those idiots have got to do. So yeah.
So it didn't end up being Sky's Rumble, but it was Sky's Fight for Gold. I want to drill down into that moment where you climb to the top of the ladder, you unhook that briefcase, you take it down, the crowd is going wild. You look out there, there's hundreds of people clapping, cheering, and this is a unique situation at the moment in the world, really. A lot of places, if they're having professional wrestling at all, can't have an audience. If they're having an audience at all, the audience isn't able to be vocal. But there you are in Invercargill, of all places, crowd going wild to see this accomplishment of yours. How did it feel to look out there at this massive crowd, this massive reaction, and just, to be so full circle, I guess, from that first lockdown?
I remember after the year that 2020 was, grabbing that briefcase, I pulled it in, and I had my head down, and I actually had a few tears. I had a little cry. I was like, oh my, and I could hear everyone going crazy. And I was just overwhelmed, and I put my head out, I flicked my hair out the way, and I just screamed, because I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, yes, like, yes. just with joy, with relief, and also, I guess, just like after everything that Palmer and Cross had done, to just be on top of that ladder all by myself. No one's got in the way. No one's screwed me. For the first time, it's just me, and I've done something that I've said I'm gonna do. So it was just relief and ecstatic, but then also excitement, because with the briefcase comes opportunity, and that at the end of the day, that's the final goal. That's the big one, the SPW Championship, and having that briefcase puts me quite favourably to looking at Jamie Tangata and that title. And I said it after I won that briefcase, after I pulled it down, I said, Jamie, you better have eyes in the back of your damn head, boy, because I'm telling you one thing. By the end of 2021, Jamie, you're not going to be 2 titles, Tangata SA. You're going to be 1 title. Well, no titles. I don't know. But all I can tell you is that I am going to end 2021 with the SPW Championship, and that is a fact. And that briefcase says so.
Oh, we just got a promo there from Cool Guy Sky. That was all right.
Did get away. The goosebumps are up. Went on a tangent.
You're becoming a bit of the SPW Iron Man, or like, I don't know if that's what you'd call it, but like able to go multiple matches over a day or two and get the job done after that Fight Nights tournament, and being number 1 in the Rumble, and now the 3 matches in 1 weekend at Fight for Gold.
Yeah, I guess stamina and resilience are definitely big things in Cool Guy Sky. That's probably the biggest thing I've learned since coming out of the tag team, because like you say, yeah, I was in the Rumble for like, I don't know how long, 40 minutes or so. That Barracks Brawl was one of the toughest nights of my wrestling, but I pull through, and I'm determined. And I guess it's like everyone in the crowd. Everyone, you got to be determined. You just got to, when the goings are tough, and the goings are tough, especially with COVID and everything. You just got to keep going. You got to keep going. You got to keep fighting. It doesn't matter if Professor Palmer and Jackson Cross, whoever that might be in your life, they might be. You just got to keep working. No matter what the obstacle is, you're going to get over it. And I think that's definitely what Cool Guy Sky is at the moment. After all the adversity, the results are coming. It's starting to pay off. So if there's something that Cool Guy Sky is standing for at the moment, it's definitely that. And King of the Iron Man, eh? King of the Iron Man.
And as we mentioned at the top of the show, it wasn't just the Fight for Gold briefcase. It was the SPW New Zealand tag team titles that you won with Will Power. Talk to us a little bit about your relationship with Will Power, how that's developed. You've got your own radio show, and now you are the tag team champions of SPW.
Yeah, so Will's like the Sims. He took us under our wing from the moment that I came into SPW. I lived with him for a bit. When I moved down to Invercargill, he took me in, gave me a couch to crash on. So he's been my best mate for the whole time. One of my best mates now. We always do this funny stuff. We go away out of town, and we wrestled together in Christchurch. We actually won the Unified Tag Team Championships, which was sort of it was quite cool to do that together. But we didn't really think anything of it, We just thought, we're teaming because it's fun. It's cool. We're mates. We get a team. This is awesome. But then, like you say, when an open challenge came up, it was like, wow, obviously I'm going to tip my hat in there. Last time I got screwed out of the tag belts last year. I'd like to get them. So I thought, hey, Will, my best mate, Mega Powers, let's do it in SPW. And I think the crowd were pretty happy to see it. I think Wise Stories put up a wee video of some of the crowd reaction. Zachary Hefferman and Sham, they were hugging, and honestly, man, those guys can see in the future, because they knew what I was going to say before I was even going to say it. They were mouthing my words. So it's pretty sick getting to team with your best mate, win the tag titles. It was probably one of my favorite, second favorite. Ladder match, my favorite. Second favorite moment in SPW, definitely with Will, like winning those tag belts, and just seeing the joy in people's faces. Like, there was tears with people in the crowd. It was special. So, it's going to be pretty cool getting to do stuff together. And Cool Guy Sky, Will Power, the Mega Powers. We're gonna be the most dominant tag team in professional wrestling. We're 2 from 2 at the moment. Two tag title matches, 2 tag title wins. So can't go too wrong really with the Mega Powers.
Yeah, a massive shout out to Waiheke there at Wise Stories, capturing some of those moments at ringside. Some very, very cool, very special moments over the weekend, like you say.
Oh yeah, brother.
And then as we start moving towards wrapping this interview up and moving towards the area where we plug a bunch of stuff, do tell us a little bit about Wrestle Cafe, this radio show of yours that you've got going on with Professor Palmer, with Will Power, and sort of what you guys are hoping to accomplish over there.
So Wrestle Cafe is a little Radio Southland radio show, also on Spotify and Apple Music or podcast, whatever it's called. It's car crash. It's absolute rubbish, but we have a good time, and I think the listeners have a good time for that fact. It's pretty unfiltered, and we talk about some random stuff. And yeah, so if you're easily offended, maybe don't listen to Wrestle Cafe, but it's a comedy show, and we always have a ton of fun. Me and Will always just wind up Professor Palmer, and we have a good time. So if you haven't listened to it, give it a listen on Spotify, but make sure you listen to the Bleeding Edge before you listen to Wrestle Cafe, because don't want to turn you off Bleeding Edge while I'm on it. Okay.
Watch your words there, Sky. We'll have to come after those tag belts you guys got.
Exactly. Is that it? Is it Wrestle Cafe Mega Powers versus the Bleeding Edge duo? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Actually,
maybe that's the big stadium match we've been looking for. That's
it. We've been hunting for it. The next Deadly Sins. Maybe it's David Dunn and Tyler King. Good cheerful.
Maybe.
There's a We exclusive. There's going to be a Wrestle Cafe TV show coming soon. Well, it's not actually a TV show. It's just going to be Facebook videos. But
I was going to say, you guys got funding and everything? Like this?
Yeah,
amazing?
no, self-funded.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not actually Wrestle Cafe. It's actually just the Mega Powers, but we're just going to call it Wrestle Cafe Live. So Mega Powers TV show, not actually a TV show, on Facebook, coming soon. We haven't recorded it yet, but we've got all the ideas. So, and now I've said it on the podcast, it has to happen. So
yeah, see, that's dangerous. We've fallen into that trap already. As soon as you say something without actually having it ready to go, it adds that extra pressure, and then, man, if it doesn't happen.
We're shockers for that on Wrestle Cafe. We'll tell people, yeah, come on the show. And then we'll forget that we've asked people to come on the show. And so we had Tim Shabelt on the show. And we're like, oh, wait, did we ask for Tim Shabelt to come on the show? We did. And yeah, he was on the show. So it's always a good time. But yes, now that we've said it, has to happen. So it will happen. We're determined. And we've told a lot of people it's going to happen too.
So you've got the Fight for Gold briefcase. Obviously, you've got your sights set on that SPW New Zealand Championship, as you mentioned. But looking beyond that, what are some of your other goals? Putting you on the spot, what else does Cool Guy Sky want to accomplish in the world of professional wrestling?
Look, there's a lot of people who want to wrestle, a lot of places I want to go. I want to see the world with wrestling. I want to travel the world with wrestling. And I just want to do wrestling for a job, I guess, one day, hopefully. But I really want to get over to Australia. I guess PWA and MCW would be two big goals, and EPW in Australia. And then just, hopefully one day be able to travel around and do wrestling for a living, that's probably the ultimate goal, I'd say, for me. And wrestle all sorts of different people all over the world. So yeah, that's sort of one of the goals for me.
And if people want to follow you and stay up to date with your journey as you try and tick off all these goals, where can they find you on social media? You
can find me on @CoolGuySky, and that's just on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I've even got a TikTok. That's right, I've got a TikTok. So
huge news.
There you go.
Awesome, man. Well, it was great to have you on the Bleeding Edge. We'll have to catch up again one day. Maybe you'll have a different title around your waist then. We'll see what happens with that briefcase, eh?
Definitely. Grand Slam, Cool Guy Sky, coming soon to an SPW show near you. Thanks for having me on, boys.
A very cool interview with Cool Guy Sky. We will have to keep an eye on things in terms of when he will cash in that briefcase for the SPW New Zealand Championship. Will it be happening at Queenstown on April 3rd?
It is certainly a possibility, so make sure you stay glued to all of the SPW social media as we reveal more information about SPW in Queenstown on April 3rd. At SP Wrestling NZ on Twitter and on Instagram, and Southern Pro Wrestling New Zealand on Facebook.
And we already know about the Hooligan taking on Niwa round 2. Just that match alone has me sold. I'm going to be there. Are you going to be there, David?
I'm going to be there. Sign me up. Cannot wait for the Hooligan and Niwa.
How many more podcasts we got between now and then to hype this match?
Not enough. Not nearly enough. I can hype this match for days, Tyler.
All right. Fair enough.
How much time have you got? I'll fill it.
All right, on that note, I am Tyler King. He is David Dunn. Thank you, and we will catch you next time on The Bleeding Edge.